What happens when a billionaire's life hangs by a thread, and the only person who can save him is the poor black woman everyone just ignored? She had no credentials, no fancy white coat, just steady hands, a calm voice, and a heart big enough to see past a bleeding stranger on the street. They laughed at her, called her a scammer, even threatened to arrest her. But what happened next didn't just shock the world, it changed hers forever. This isn't just a story about saving a man's life. It's about what happens when the world realizes they've been looking down on the wrong people. Keep watching, because the twist, you'll never see it coming. The sun hadn't yet burned through the morning haze when Amara Hill stepped onto the cracked sidewalk of East Haven, a quiet neighborhood forgotten by time and city budgets. Her sneakers were worn soles, flapping faintly with each step, but her posture was upright, her shoulders squared against the cold. She carried a second-hand medical textbook in her tote pages, dog-eared and stained from coffee she couldn't afford to waste. Her dream was simple: save enough money to one day become a real nurse, not just a home aide with unofficial training and a heart too big for her paycheck. As she passed the corner bodega, she waved to Mr. Moreno, who always gave her a smile, even when she couldn't buy more than a banana. The city rumbled to life behind her. Sirens honking. Laughter that didn't reach the eyes. Then she saw it. A man. Face down alone on the pavement beside the bus stop. No one moved to help. People stepped around him. Phones out. Brows furrowed. But no one knelt. Amara dropped to her knees, her voice calm, but commanding. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, checking his pulse with a steady hand. Weak, irregular. She tilted his head, checked his breathing. Her heart raced, but her mind didn't falter. "Call 911, she barked to a teen nearby who stared blankly. Now her palms pressed against his chest, she began compressions. 1, 2, 3, 30. Breath, again. The world faded, just her hymn, the rhythm of hope. The ambulance screamed in the distance. Someone finally moved to help. She kept going. His chest jerked. He gasped, eyes fluttered open, dazed. "You're okay," she whispered. "You're safe." Paramedics took over. One of them gave her a look, half confusion, half respect. She stepped back, hands trembling, clothes smeared with grit, but her spirit calm. She didn't ask for thanks, just watched as the ambulance disappeared. Then she turned, picked up her tote. The ambulance had already taken the unconscious man away. She stood at the curb, arms folded tight across her chest, trying to catch her breath, still trembling from adrenaline. People were gathering now, not to help, but to record. Her clothes were stained, from where she'd knelt, her palms red, from pressure she'd applied to a stranger's chest. A woman in a pencil skirt muttered as she passed. "What's she trying to prove? She's not even trained." A man in a tailored jacket laughed, probably trying to look like a hero for TikTok. She heard the clicks of their phones. A uniformed officer approached, glancing down at her blood-stained pants. "Step back, miss. We've had reports that you were interfering with emergency procedures." Her mouth opened, stunned. "I performed CPR. He wasn't breathing. The officer cut her off, eyes cold. "Did you touch his wallet? Anything on him?" Her face twisted. "What? No, Another officer joined, arms crossed, voice skeptical. "Multiple witnesses say you hovered over him before anyone else arrived. What's your connection to the victim?" "I don't know him," she whispered. "I just saw him collapse." The whispers spread like wildfire. She probably thought he was worth something. Wouldn't be the first time someone staged a scene for clout. A woman in pearls scoffed. She probably thought he was a rich old man, trying to secure a payout. The officer raised his voice. "I need your ID." Her hands shook as she pulled out her wallet. "I didn't do anything wrong." The crowd didn't care. They leaned in closer, hungry for scandal. "Bet she's not even legal," someone hissed. "This is assault, right? Check her record." Another voice rang out. Her license was scanned. Her name broadcasted over police radio. Michaela Jones. No priors. "For now," the officer muttered. "You wait here." Cameras swarmed her like locusts. A teenage boy live-streamed narrating every second. "Yo, this woman just tackled a rich dude and tried to rob him. She's getting booked." Her throat tightened. "That's not true. I saved his life." "Sure, sweetheart." "Sure," the officer replied sarcastically. Another bystander shouted. She probably Googled how to fake CPR, scammer, fraud, clout chaser. The words pierced deeper than the sirens had minutes ago. Her body began to fold in on itself, chest heavy with humiliation. But she stood, even when someone spat near her shoes, even when a woman flung a cup of iced coffee that landed square against her side, soaking her shirt in front of everyone. The crowd laughed. Guess she'll learn her place now. But Michaela didn't move, didn't cry, didn't beg. She stood in her wrinkled scrubs with scraped knees and trembling hands, and refused to let their shame become her truth. The morning light cast long shadows across the polished marble of the Hartwell Medical Center's private wing, where silence was golden, and the air smelled like money, masked with lavender disinfectant. Amara stepped inside her uniform, clean, but faded her shoes, still damp from the sidewalk. She greeted the receptionist with a warm smile, but it wasn't returned. The woman behind the desk, a pale blonde with manicured nails and a Cartier bracelet, glanced at Amara's badge and sighed like something unpleasant had entered the room. "You're late," she said, even though Amara wasn't. "Mr. Tomlinson expects you to prepare the suite and wipe your shoes before you go past the glass line." Amara nodded, biting back the sting of a dozen similar moments, and walked down the hall. The other nurses in crisp new scrubs whispered as she passed. One of them, Brittany, leaned in and muttered, "Is she even certified?" Another, with auburn curls and a clipboard she never used, snickered. "She's probably one of those YouTube-trained caregivers, only here because they're desperate for diversity points." Their laughter echoed like a wound, but Amara kept walking. She was used to it, the way they looked at her skin before her name, the way they assumed her presence was an accident, not effort. She reached Mr. Tomlinson's room. The elderly man was kind if forgetful. He smiled at her, and she helped him to the chair, adjusting his oxygen and humming the gospel tune. He loved the one he could never name. He didn't see her race, only her care. But others did. Later that day, during staff lunch, she sat alone at a corner table. No one joined her. They crowded another table, trading stories about weekends in Napa designer scrubs and patients who tipped. Someone walked past her and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Bet. She's only here to find a rich man." The others laughed, forks clinking against fine china plates. Amara picked at her sandwich, her back straight. Her gaze focused on her book. Her ears burned, but she didn't let it show. After lunch, she went back to work, checking charts, tending wounds, changing sheets. Every patient received her best, even the ones who looked through her like she was invisible. At the end of her shift, she clocked out, waved goodbye to the cleaning staff, who always smiled like they understood. She walked home, past the glossy boutiques, past the stairs. The world never gave her shortcuts, only obstacles, but she carried them with grace. What she didn't know, what no one knew, was that the man she'd saved that morning wasn't just any stranger. He was Ethan Bell. And by nightfall, he would be asking for the name of the black woman who refused to walk past his unconscious body like everyone else. The hospital room was dim, the only light coming from the slow pulse of a monitor beside the bed. Simone sat in the corner, her hands clasped in her lap, eyes fixed on the man lying unconscious before her. For hours, doctors had rushed in and out, their whispers, clipped and clinical. But now, it was quiet. Just the steady beep of life, the faint hum of machines, and her own racing thoughts. The man she had saved, the stranger who had collapsed at her feet outside the pharmacy, now lay surrounded by the most expensive medical equipment money could buy. She had found out his name from a nurse's hushed conversation. Gabriel Langston, CEO of Langston Global Net, worth estimated at $41 billion. A man who moved markets, who owned tech empires, and whose face rarely graced the news because he avoided cameras like plague. And yet here she was, sitting beside him in sweatpants and sneakers that barely held together, feeling like an intruder in a world that was never meant for her. The door creaked open slowly. A tall man in a navy suit stepped inside his shoes, soundless on the polished floor. His voice was low, firm, and unmistakably trained for boardrooms. "You must be Simone." She stood quickly, her hands instinctively smoothing her shirt. "Yes, is Mr. Langston okay?" The man nodded slowly, offering a faint smile. "He's stable now. Thanks to you, I'm Elias Morton, his chief of staff." He reached out a hand. She shook it, her palm calloused against his smooth skin. "He'll want to see you when he wakes up. I've never seen him let anyone sit that close, not even me." Simone's brow furrowed. "I didn't know who he was. I just saw someone in trouble." Elias chuckled softly. "That's exactly why he'll want to talk to you." Moments later, Gabriel stirred. His eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, until they landed on Simone. For a brief moment he just stared, as if he were searching her face for something familiar, something real. "You stayed," he said, voice raspy. Simone stepped closer. "Of course I did." He blinked hard, then turned to Elias. "Clear the room. Just me and her." The staff hesitated, but Gabriel's gaze left no room for discussion. Within minutes, they were alone. "What's your name?" he asked Simone. He repeated it like a secret. "Simone. That name might have just saved my life." She smiled, unsure how to respond. It was nothing. It was everything he countered. A long silence stretched between them, not awkward, but weighty. Then his next words landed like thunder. "Come work for me." She blinked. "I'm sorry." He pushed himself up against the pillows. "You didn't hesitate. You moved fast. You stayed calm under pressure. That's more than I can say for most of my security team." Simone laughed nervously. "I'm not trained for anything like that. I don't need training," he said. "I need people who are real." She felt the floor shift beneath her. "But I work at a diner. I take care of my mom. I don't have degrees. I don't have money. I barely have rent next month." Gabriel tilted his head. "And yet you had everything I needed today." He reached over to the table beside him, pulled a small leather-bound notebook from his bag. Inside was a check. "Blank, already signed. Fill it out. Whatever you think today was worth." Then come see me. Monday, at Langston Tower. Simone stared at the check. It shimmered under the fluorescent lights, taunting her. Is this some kind of test? He shook his head slowly. No. Simone, this is a beginning. Monday arrived wrapped in fog, the kind that blanketed Manhattan like a secret. Simone stood in front of Langston Tower, a monument of steel and glass that scraped the clouds, its logo glinting like a crown in the morning light. She wore the only blazer she owned, thrifted navy one-button, missing near the cuff. Her boots were scuffed, but clean. Her hair pulled back into a tight bun. Her expression calm, but her hands trembled slightly around the strap of her purse. She took a deep breath and walked through the revolving doors into another world. The lobby exploded with marble and minimalist elegance. A curved staircase floated above an indoor koi pond. The air smelled like citrus and quiet power. Simone stepped up to the reception desk, where a woman with sleek bangs and sharper cheekbones eyed her with subtle disdain. Name Simone Hart. The receptionist's fingers danced over the keyboard. Her brows arched. Oh, you're her. She tapped something, and immediately a man in a tailored gray suit appeared. Ms. Hart, right this way. They led her through a corridor that seemed to stretch forever, each step echoing softly. As the elevator opened to the executive floor, Simone tried not to stare at the artwork, the polished wood, the sheer silence that seemed to follow money wherever it went. Gabriel was waiting in a glass-walled office that overlooked the city. He stood when she entered, his posture easy, but commanding. You came, he said. Of course I did, she replied. Still want to offer me a job. I want to offer you something more. He gestured for her to sit. Across the desk lay a thick folder. I had Elias look into you, he said. Not in a creepy way. I had to know. Simone tensed. And what did you find? You're not just a woman who works at a diner. Gabriel said slowly. You're the daughter of the late Elijah Hart. Her breath caught. How do you know that name? Because 10 years ago I tried to buy your father's patent. He refused. Said his daughter would do more good with it than I ever could. Simone felt the room tilt. That patent was never published. Your father never sold it, Gabriel said. But it's here. He opened the folder. Inside were blueprints, handwritten notes, a prototype design for a low-cost insulin patch that could have changed millions of lives. Simone's voice dropped. He died before he could finish it. But you finished it, Gabriel said. I found your lab notes in the patent office backlog. You submitted an update 4 months ago. Simone's heart thundered. I didn't think anyone noticed. I noticed, Gabriel said. And so did our board. I want to fund it. I want to manufacture it. And I want your name on every single unit. Simone's hand flew to her mouth. Why? Because your father was right. Gabriel said, you can do more good than any of us. Simone stared at him, her eyes glassy. All this time I thought that work would die with him, that no one cared. It was just waiting, Gabriel said softly, for the right moment and the right woman. The announcement came on a Wednesday. A press release dropped at 9:01 a.m., just as the stock market opened. Langston Biotech to partner with Hart Innovations for global access insulin patch. The words splashed across every major outlet within minutes. Forbes, Bloomberg, CNN. Photos of Gabriel Langston shaking hands with Simone Hart hit the front page. Her hair down, her smile small but radiant. The world finally saw her. Investors buzzed. Journalists scrambled for angles. Share prices surged. But inside Langston Tower, The fallout began like a silent tremor. Just hours before, Simone had returned to the diner to say goodbye. Marie, the manager who'd once mocked her, stood pale as she read the headline on her phone. Her jaw slackened. Her fingers trembled. Simone, she whispered. But Simone was already removing her apron, folding it gently, and placing it on the counter. Thank you for the job, she said simply. I won't need it anymore. In the corner, Angela, the same waitress who'd called her the girl with nothing, stared at the screen showing Simone, flanked by the governor, and Gabriel Langston. Oh my God, she muttered. She's her. The cook dropped his spatula. Customers looked up from their phones. They'd seen her in the diner 1,000 times, but they'd never seen her. Not really back at Langston's headquarters. Not everyone celebrated Dana. Hartwell, the CFO who had once dismissed Gabriel's decision to hire a random woman from the street, was called into a closed-door meeting. The board confronted her with recordings, emails, internal documents, all suggesting she'd tried to block the Hart deal from going through. She's nobody, she'd written in one memo. We're not a charity. Now she stood in a boardroom full of silence, the legal team stacked with folders. We're done protecting you, Gabriel said coldly. You're terminated effective immediately. Dana's face collapsed. You can't, Gabriel. We worked together for 10 years. And in 10 seconds he replied, you tried to sabotage the most meaningful partnership of this company's history. She was escorted out before she could pack her desk. Meanwhile, the backlash against the diner grew fierce. Online reviews tanked. They mistreated Simone Hart. They mocked a woman who saved lives. TikTok videos reenacted the original insult. Hashtags exploded. Diner down. Hart over hate. Local news camped outside the building. Marie, desperate, tried to apologize publicly, sobbing on camera. But it was too late. The internet doesn't forget. By Friday, the diner had closed. A small cardboard sign taped to the window. Read closed until further notice. Simone never gloated. She didn't need to. Her silence was thunder. Her rise justice enough. The first batch of insulin patches rolled off the production line 6 weeks later. They were small, barely the size of a quarter, but each one carried a name. Hart Patch. Distributed free to over 2,000 families in Detroit alone. Gabriel and Simone launched the Hart Foundation together, a nonprofit dedicated to funding medical innovation from marginalized communities. They didn't just donate. They built labs, scholarships, grant programs. They changed everything. And back at the hospital, the old man who Simone had once treated in the alley now held one of the first patches in his hand. You saved me once, he said through tears as Simone clasped his wrist gently. And now you've saved me again. The Hart Institute opened its doors in the heart of Atlanta on a warm spring morning. The building, once an abandoned warehouse, now glistened with glass walls, solar panels, and engraved stone that read, Innovation with Hart. Equity by design. Inside, kids from underfunded neighborhoods stepped into labs lined with microscopes, their eyes wide with wonder. Formerly dismissed patients walked free, with Hart patches on their arms, no longer shackled to $400 vials of insulin, and on the stage stood Simone Hart. No longer the woman people ignored, overlooked, or assumed was invisible. She wore a navy suit, her curls falling freely, her voice calm and clear. When I was 12, my mother collapsed in our kitchen. She said we couldn't afford her insulin refill. She never woke up. The audience fell silent. I was told to stay in my lane, that girls like me from places like mine couldn't change the world. But I did. And now you will too. News cameras clicked. Reporters cried. In the front row sat a woman named Nia Carter, 17, a high school student from Baltimore. Just a year before, she'd been mocked at her science fair. Her project: low-cost cancer screening using saliva was dismissed by judges who said it was cute. But after seeing Simone's story go viral, she applied to the Heart Fellowship. And now she stood backstage, clutching her acceptance letter, tears shining in her eyes. If she could do it, so can I. The legacy Simone built didn't just live in labs or policies. It lived in culture. Late-night shows stopped joking about hood science. University boards began offering equity-based funding, not just merit scholarships. Venture capitalists created justice funds modeled after the Heart Foundation. Even the language changed. No longer was brilliance tied to suits or boardrooms. Now it wore hoodies, braids, sometimes scrubs, sometimes scars. And on the first anniversary of the Heart Patch launch, a mural appeared on the side of a building in downtown Atlanta. It showed Simone, her hand outstretched, placing a patch on the shoulder of a child. Behind her stood a tidal wave of changes: scientists, medics, patients, students, of every shade, class, and dream. At the bottom, the words read, "She didn't raise her voice. She raised the world." Back at home, Simone and Gabriel sat beneath a canopy of stars in their backyard. No security detail, no flashbulbs, just the quiet click of wind chimes and the rustle of trees. Gabriel handed her a mug of tea, his hand lingering. "You did it," he whispered. She smiled, tracing the rim with her finger. "No," she said, "we did, but there's still more to do." He nodded. "There always will be." They sat in the stillness. Two souls who had collided in a moment of compassion, now rewriting the future, one life, one heartbeat at a time. If you believe that one act of kindness can change everything, remember this story. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or made to feel small, know this: your worth is not defined by their vision. It's defined by your own. Simone Hart didn't need their approval. She needed only her truth. And sometimes that's all it takes to change the world. They said she was just a nobody, a poor girl with no degree, no pedigree, no future. But in the moment, it mattered most. She saved a life, challenged a system, and reminded the world what real worth looks like. She didn't need a billionaire to change her life. She changed his. And when the cameras stopped rolling and the headlines moved on, the legacy she left behind only grew stronger. In every clinic she funded, in every girl who believed she could, in every life she touched without asking for anything in return. So the next time you see someone you think is beneath you, ask yourself, what if the person you just judged is the reason your world still turns? If this story moved you, don't scroll past it. Share it. Talk about it. And remember, real power doesn't come from money. It comes from heart.